might decide for this process to use a viewfinder, which is this little guy here, to help you, okay? This is going to make it so that when we're looking at your photographs, that we are looking at only one block at a time to do your gridding, okay? Only one block at a time. So the basic essence of the philosophy behind the grid system process is that it breaks it down into smaller chunks for you to visually digest at a time. So far, everything that we've been drawing this year has been in a 3D version. We've been drawing things from life, the still life, your shoe. Those things are much more challenging to draw than drawing from a flat 2D surface. A photograph has already been translated and made flat. So all we have to do now is look at where edges of lines overlap, and that's what this is going to help us do. The other thing that's really important to think about before you start drawing up here is that you count out which section you're working on. And that sounds really basic and like something I'd say to a first grader, but it is the biggest mistake that kids make when they grid. I'll walk over and they'll have started something in the wrong section. Okay, so let's say, for example, that I wanted to work on this kid's eye right here. I would need to know first which block to work in. So it's 1, 2, 3 down, and it's the second one over. So second one over, and 1, 2, 3 down. So it's this block here corresponding to this block here. Now, some students are going to be really able to just freehand this and look at it. Other students are going to need to go in order and do each block at a time. Most students like to do the interior first, which is why I'm showing you how to start with this one. The first thing that we would do is after we have this divided up, you would want to look at your block and then look at the corresponding block on your drawing, on your Bristol board. It helps if you subdivide these individual blocks even more. It'll help you place things. For example, when I look at this particular one and I divide this again in half, make another mark here, and another mark here, and a mark over here, and then a mark here. That shows me that the eye is below the halfway line, okay? So that means when I come over to this section and do my marks, it's going to help me position the eye and where I place things. I know now, for example, that the eye has to go right at the top of the eyelid, right here, goes on that halfway point. This is also going to help you when you're deciding how far over to place things. If I break this down into quarters, it shows me that the tear duct happens before the quarter mark. Okay, so it tells me that it's going to be over in this area. Okay? Do you see how I'm subdividing this? Okay, how I'm breaking it down into even further divisions to help you. Okay? Breaking it down into even further sections to help you when you're subdividing it. Then you're going to draw those lines and the division lines, and then you're going to draw your image up here. My rule for the gridding assistance is this: I will help you after you've made an attempt. So after you draw things out, I will come over and assist you. Another pointer that I'd like to give you when you're starting with your grid work is that if you are looking at, for example, your eyes, you want to make sure that they're on the right angle. Most students, when they're doing their work, you're going to find that your eyes run parallel with a grid line. But there are some of you who have your face in your photograph slightly tilted. If we look at this, for example, and I had one earlier today that was even more extreme, the eyes were on an angle. Does anyone have their photograph and have your head tilted in it so your eyes aren't completely straight? You guys have one? Let me see if I have one in here that is a better example. I want it to be a little bit extreme to help you. Well, here's one. A cute, silly pose. So if we look at this cute, silly pose, you're going to see that her eyes, if you go from the top or the bottom lid or the tear duct, that they're on an angle. Do you see how the ruler has to go at an angle and it's not straight? The same thing is going to have to happen in your drawing. That is the second most common mistakes that students make. It is human nature to want to straighten your face out and make everything parallel and lined up. But when you're actually doing these drawings, sometimes that doesn't work. So if I go to the bottom area, right here of this, and let's say I was going to draw this up here, I could come in, and if this were blocked off, let's say that this were my third block, I could line these up because this is a ratio, and I could let the same line, the same angle that I have in my photograph happen on my Bristol board. And I could actually come in and trace it right on that angle to make sure that my eyes were in the correct location and at the correct placement. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? When you're doing your grid today, when you're starting the drawing, our goal is to have the drawings on the Bristol board so that on block day, Wednesday, for this group, we can come in and I can show you pen and ink. So I can show you how to actually start doing the stippling, hatching, and cross hatching. In order to do that, you're going to only do linear drawings. So these are line drawings. There is no shading involved with these. So check your math, check your angles, subdivide the blocks, and make sure that everything is lining up correctly, and then I will come and edit and check. Got it? All right, let's get busy.